edition of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I'm Brian Ferguson. My guest today has been a part of wrestling since he was born. He started his career in wrestling in 2003. He is the son of the greatest wrestler on God's green earth, the great Harley Race. He is a four-time World League Wrestling Heavyweight Champion and is the current promoter for World League, the legendary promotion World League Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Leland Race. Leland, thank you for coming on the show today. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate your time and the opportunity to get in here and chit chat about wrestling, because Lord knows it gets rather boring trying to talk with my dogs about it, because my wife works a full-time job and she don't want to listen to hear me talk anyway. So, it's good to talk to a human.
Well, I'm glad you were able to come on today. It's great to have you. Let's get started with growing up. You're the son of the legendary, handsome Harley Race.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about your growing up and your experiences as a young man, as a adolescent in the business. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you could.
Yeah. So you pretty much hit it right on the head. Everybody thinks that it was all glitz and glamour because of his position, because of his role in professional wrestling and his stature. It was the furthest thing from it. Truthfully, he went on record and said it, and I'll say it too. He didn't want me to be around wrestling. He wanted me to do anything but professional wrestling, primarily because of the hardships that this industry brings. And, I was involved in sports pretty much my entire life. And, I still try to be today. I try to work out. I'm in the ring training every single week, 3 days a week. Some days I feel it, some days I don't. I'm 37 years old, and especially you're based in Bolivar, so Missouri weather can change at the drop of a dime, and literally within an hour and a half. It just happened the other day. So my joints feel it some days, and then again, I feel good on some other days too. It just depends literally on the weather. And people want to know, what it's like to be that. Well, especially in the professional wrestling industry, kids that are bigger than you want to try and test you. And that's just the nature of the beast. You're Harley Race's son. Well, so what? Who cares? I'll put my shoes on 1 foot at a time, just like everybody else, And, it's nothing was ever given to me. You had to go out there and earn it. And, it could be in any facet of life, rather. Was it great having him as a dad? Absolutely. But he treated me just like any other parent should treat their kid. And I mean that in a very respectful and positive way,
Right. Okay. When he traveled a lot, obviously, when he was the champion, and even when he was on the indies for a while, towards, when he transitioned from being a wrestler to promoter, and then you got involved. What was that like? I mean, I can imagine that was really hard on you, being the son of Harley and going through training, expectations. Tell us a little bit about your training and how that went.
So again, knowing the history and that simple but yet very complicated fact that he did not want me to get involved in professional wrestling in the slightest, it wasn't easy. So I started professional wrestling when I was 17 years old. The deal was that I could go through professional training to be a professional wrestler, but two conditions. Number one, I had to go through college. Number two, I could not start at his academy. That was basically just from the biased point of view. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, people didn't want to view me as training there, and then the next step, the big times. That was not a thing. And to further that, I was sent to Charlotte, North Carolina, under a guy by the name of George South. A lot of people in this area, the Midwest, may have heard of him,
Yeah.
but he was mainly based on the East Coast. He did a lot of stuff with Crockett and the Crockett territories, and Atlanta, Georgia, with Ole Anderson booking. Primarily a lot of stuff with Crockett, though, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and George, man, I can't say enough good things about him. He knows what he's doing. And, I trained with him every single day for 5 years. Well, every single day for at least 2 years straight. And then, went from there. Just kind of, it depended on his availability and his location, things like that.
Yeah.
So when I started, again, I was 17 years old. It was March the 3rd, 2003. And a month and a half later, I was having a match 6 days a week, 4 to 6 hours a day. You walk into the training facility was in a part of a shopping center. So you walk in, and the shopping center the ceiling was 8 foot tall from ground to top, right? And it was a ceiling. It was the tile ceilings. So it wasn't very tall. And so what he had a ring kind of makeshifted for and I don't mean like a backyard ring. What I mean was that he had a ring. Normally, prior to, I think the ring sat 3 foot tall off the ground, where the canvas sits, just like a normal ring. And he had the legs cut off to where it was only like 6 or so inches off the ground. And you could, again, I'm 6 foot on the nose, probably 6'1" when I started. And I could get in the ring, put my hand up and touch the ceiling. That's how small of a space it was. But you learn how to wrestle there, because a wrestling match, well, in today's world, it's all, everybody has their own definite, wrestling is an art, et cetera, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying there's lots of different interpretations of what professional wrestling is.
Right.
George's view, my view, the old man's view, it's all the same. It's a competition. It's storytelling through the art of sports competition. And it's being able to hold the people right there, which you had the master of it being the 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. So you really learn how to wrestle in a building where you can reach up and touch the ceiling. You can't go off the top rope. You can't do flips. You can't do, George didn't let you do dives. I mean, it's the first show I think that I wrestled on had, like 20 people. That's fine. You learn how to wrestle, because there's a lot of students in professional wrestling today that, they start training in their brain. They think, well, I'm going to be on TV in 6 months for WWE or now AEW or Impact. Man, that's just not how that works. Let me clue some people in. Okay.
All right.
Some of the biggest names in professional wrestling are still around today. Danielson, Punk. I mean, there's a lot of names out there that started the same way that I did. It wasn't a big extravagant backgrounds or, training facilities that are 20,000 square foot and air conditioned and heated with the pool whenever you go home. No, that's that's the furthest thing from it,
Right.
Being able to learn how to adapt to any situation, I think is very, very important. It's George ran shows every single weekend. He had to. That's what and he still makes his living doing. I mean, and he would literally travel all over the country doing ring rentals, and as part of the, ring rental agreement, so to speak, was that his guys had a match or two, and I was very fortunate because he didn't have to let me wrestle. He, again, you had to go out there and earn that opportunity. You didn't put in the work, you didn't put in the effort. Next place, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
And so this is all I've wanted to do since I've been 11 years old. Yeah. And he knew that, and he knew the background, and he knew what I wanted out of this industry. And while those goals, while those wants and desires for me have changed drastically from when I started to now, at the end of the day, I still want to be involved in professional wrestling. And there would be trips where I would go with George. We literally left on a Friday evening at 6 p.m., drove to Nacogdoches, Texas, which is 18 hours away from Charlotte, one way.
Wow.
And we got there on a Saturday, I want to say it was Saturday afternoon around 2 p.m. Because it was a church event. And he had two wrestling shows at a church. And we did the 2 shows on a Sunday at 9 a.m. I wrestled Dusty Wolf, who was the second version. He played the second version of Doink the Clown. And
Okay.
for both events, and drove back. We packed the ring, drove back, and I made it just in time to go to class at 8 a.m. on a Monday. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a long trip. Worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And those opportunities are few and far between nowadays, just because kids don't want to travel outside of 50 miles.
Yeah.
But that period, that 5-year period, to me was a great period. After that, I started to go weekly to Jody Hamilton, the Masked Assassin, who's from St. Joe, right? I don't know if you have heard of him.
I've heard of him, yes.
Okay, so he was one of the original Masked Assassins. Again, he was a big figure in St. Joe professional wrestling, and ironically enough, so was the old man. This isn't sponsored by Mountain Dew, by the way. I'm just thirsty. But so every week I would travel to Atlanta, Georgia, which was 4 hours from Charlotte one way, just to do enhancement matches for Deep South Wrestling. And at the time, Deep South Wrestling was a developmental territory for WWE. Okay. One of the two. The other one was OVW. Right. And so I would go there weekly to do enhancement matches for their television show. It was every Thursday. And I was there when the transition took place from Bill DeMott to Tom Pritchard. It was a good learning opportunity, because I'd try to go down some days if I could, because again, I had a full-time job at that point in time. And I would go down there when I could to train. I would do the enhancement TV, and if I could afford to do it and use sick leave, I would stay on Friday mornings to do the tape review, because that's the more you put in. Not just was the office seeing that, and when I mean the office, I mean Jody Hamilton, Nick Patrick, who was his son, and if WWE had sent like a trainer or a producer down there to give advice to all the talent they had assigned to that territory, they saw it too. And you don't want to not show face, you know what I mean? You want to be involved, you want to be a part of the company. I couldn't do it every week, but I did as much as I could with my job allowing, and because I could not afford to lose a job, right? So I remember I had moved down to the town itself. I call it McDonough, or Atlanta rather, but McDonough, Georgia, which was a small little suburb of Atlanta, Georgia, southeast, if I remember correctly, of Atlanta. I finally said, all right, enough of this. I want to move down there to further my training and to further, hopefully, my career. It was March of 2007. Well, mid-April 2007. So a month and some, not even, I don't think a full month later, I go to training, and I believe it was a Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. The doors had big chain link fence or chain link around the door. And that was the day where, the night before, Johnny Ace had came down and had said, and I believe it was Nova as well, Simon Dean had came down and said, hey, we're closing this up, and we're taking everything and everybody to, I think they explicitly said Florida, but at the time they didn't say FCW because NXT, because NXT wasn't a thing yet. Right. And so I went there and said, on the door, it had the chain on the door, and it said, Deep South Wrestling is no longer associated with WWE. Please follow us on our website for information, etc. Right. So I said, well, the hell with that. So
Wow.
Packed up my stuff. Literally the next night, I didn't have much. It was just a 1-bedroom apartment. Packed up my stuff, went back to Charlotte to do more training with George. I wrestled as much as I could for about, I want to say about a year. And also worked 2 full-time jobs. I was the assistant manager of a bar, and also I worked at Circuit City. And for those who haven't been around for an eternity and a half, Circuit City was like a Best Buy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I worked in the back at Circuit City and was the assistant manager of bar. So I was working like 80 hours a week. And so finally I saved up enough money and to where all I had to do was just focus on professional wrestling. So then I got the call from the old man saying, "Hey, you ready to come home?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." Right. So packed up October 20th, October 21st, I'm in Eldon. October 21st, that evening, I was at training. And
wow.
Yeah,
No messing around.
Waste of time. Yeah. So after that, I spent some time training some more. So keeping this fact in mind, I was 6 and some years changed into wrestling at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't wrestle my first match for World League Wrestling until 5 months, October, November, December, January, February. It was March, so 6 months after. So there's a lot of students that come in here and they train and they say, "Well, when am I going to have my first match?" I'm like, "You guys just don't get it, do you?
Yeah.
Like, you got to earn this stuff, right?"
Yeah.
So I had my first match. It was Sedalia, Missouri against the gentleman he's a referee for WWE now. His name is Ryan Tran. Asian, the Vietnam Phenom is what his wrestling name was. So, and he was a good friend of mine, still is. I try to talk to him on occasion. Yeah. But it was a great match, and I got a lot of good compliments, a lot of good feedback. But is to me, from the way I look at it, is thank you for the positive reinforcement, but what did I do wrong? Because I want to make it better. Right. So I kept training, kept wrestling more matches, and then the next training opportunity came. It was March of 2010. Yeah, March of 2010. I was selected by accident, or not first, I guess, to train for Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan, which was the sister company at that point in time for World League Wrestling. And again, at that point in time, Pro Wrestling Noah was in the top 3 companies of Japan. The top 3 being New Japan, All Japan, and Pro Wrestling Noah. And not in any order, by the way. And so I stayed. I was brought there to train. I trained for 3 months, and that's a different beast, man. It's a different lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. People ask me a lot, "Well, what was training like in Japan?" It's a lifestyle, man. Yeah. You got to dedicate yourself to it, mind, body, and soul. Because if you don't, that old saying, "Sink or swim." Yeah, you're gonna sink. That's just how it is. And I don't want to say the rest is history, but as far as the training aspect, that's 4 different places of training. Yeah, all of which to me are like Harvard League-esque levels of training. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not knocking any other schools out there because I just don't know what they do. I know what I do, and I try to carry on. Now I try to carry on the reputation of what the Harley Race Wrestling Academy is about, and that's teaching professional wrestling at its core to people that actually want to do it. And those people are, you have to want it. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, I went through your website actually, and I saw a lot of names that are, in the business, in the WWE or AEW. I saw Joe Henning. Mm-hmm. I saw Amy Henning. I saw, my gosh, if you go to their website, harleyrace.com, and you look at alumni, it's the who's who. Cream of the crop. Who's who. That's right. And, I've been to some of your events. I started going back in, I think it was 2012. And I'm going to get into that in a minute.
more, but it was in Springfield, Missouri.
Was that at Remington's?
I believe so. I was in the
Dolph
Army
Ziggler,
then. I
right?
was still in the Army back then. I was stationed at Fort Wood, and I told my wife I wanted to go down and see him because Harley Race. So I know it's going to be a good show.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and it was a great show. A lot of guys there and women that did a fantastic job. You were there. I can't remember. It was a title defense that you did that night.
Versus Brian. If it's the show that I'm
Brian, what's his last name?
Breaker.
Yeah.
Brian Breaker. And if that was the event where Dolph Ziggler, we did, that was, Lord, it's a very popular charity. I cannot, for the life of me, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
It was at Remington's. And so you started following us in 2012, huh?
Yeah.
So World League Wrestling's been around since 1999.
Yep.
And prior to that, it was actually World Legion Wrestling.
Okay.
World Legion, going to Remington's to me was a very historical day. It had a lot of history because that's where World Legion started. Was in that building back in '96, if I'm not mistaken. And so that, I thought that part was pretty cool. I did wrestle Brian Breaker. That was his send-off event because he went from that event, packed his bags, and moved to Tampa, Florida. Because at the time, I don't think they were in Orlando. Maybe he went to, no, it was Orlando. I'm sorry. He got signed and went to Orlando, Florida, because he was signed with NXT.
Okay.
Later on, there became Brandon Traven.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about the character you were then.
Mhm.
You were Jason Jones.
Not the Space Cowboy.
Not the Space Cowboy, which actually, that you brought that up. I went to that show the other night down in Harrison, Arkansas.
Yes, sir.
And it was a good show.
Tribute show.
Hence the shirt.
Yeah, actually, I have the same shirt. And man, Bobby was awesome.
Yes.
He very quiet, but man, he make a comment to you, just not even offhand, and you hear that, and it just makes me crack up because Bobby's so quiet.
Yeah.
But Bobby was very underrated. One of the probably like in that category of underrated wrestlers, Bobby was at the top of it.
Yeah.
His right hand punch, man, my God, he'd throw that and you wouldn't even know what was going on. He threw it so well.
Yeah.
And then of course, at the bottom of that shirt, the Alabama Jam, right?
Yep.
That's like one of my favorite moves of all time. Not only because Bobby did it, but just because of the whole idea of it. And of course, Bobby did it. He executed it perfectly. A lot of times.
Yeah.
So that and the knee drop off the top as well.
Very underrated, in my opinion, as well. I remember him as a kid in the 80s in the Midnight Express with both Loverboy Dennis and Sweet Stan and Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
What I loved about Bobby is he executed everything in the ring, and he never did say a word. He never spoke.
Yeah. That's right.
His actions
spoke for him.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Him and Dennis or Sweet Stan never said a word. It was all Jim. And that was the best part about it because they executed all their action
in the ring.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And that to me is like what professional wrestling is about. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
I can sit here and talk and talk and talk. So just you tell me to shut up and I'll be perfectly fine. With that said, Bobby was in a league of his own. And I think there's another person that is very, very, very equivalent to him was Brad Armstrong. Brad Armstrong was like amazing. Same category, but for different ways.
Yeah.
Compared to Bobby,
Yep.
I tell the guys that train here, if you want to see a great professional wrestling match, look up Bobby Eaton versus Brad Armstrong. I think it was 1990. It's either 91 or 93. Bash at the Beach, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Man, you want to see great professional wrestling? Watch that match. Like that's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. Both those guys very underrated in my mind as well, and left us way too soon.
Absolutely. Every time I see, because I met Bobby years and years and years ago, but every time I see him, he'd come up and say, he'd give me a big hug and I'd shoot the breeze with him. Just because like I don't think and this is sad when I say this, but like I don't think some of the locker rooms today knew who he was. You know what I mean? There's a lot of kids, and it's not even necessarily their fault per se, even though it doesn't take anything to sit here and look up on your phone. You know, it doesn't take much. They spend more time on Twitter putting out troll crap when all you have to do is take that time and apply it towards something else, learning about Bobby Eaton. But I would sit there and try to shoot the breeze with it. He'd tell me stories about, you know, going back to Cornette, about how he had to chase somebody off, how Cornette had to chase somebody off with a slingshot. And I just couldn't stop laughing because in my head, I could see Jim Cornette, you know, shooting a slingshot at somebody.
Yeah.
And he had me cracking up, and nobody else sitting there, like everybody else sitting there putting all their stuff together. I'm like, you're missing the point of all of this. Like, just learn and listen.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's get back to the Black Hand Warriors and Jason Jones.
So Jason Jones was basically like a pseudonym, right? I was not allowed to wrestle as myself, as Leland Race, until I had basically proved to the old man that I could stand on my own 2 feet without having to use his name. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense, yeah.
So when you think of Harley Race, what do you think of? And don't feel under the pressure.
No, I think of a man's man in the ring. I think of a guy that, one of the toughest guys in the business. I think of smart intellect and his timing, just in the ring performance and outside the ring when he would talk. He could do it all. And he's been considered one of the toughest, if not the toughest guy in wrestling. I've heard that from multiple people.
And one of the best, if not, that category type of thing. He's in that best category.
Oh yeah.
One of the top 5 ever.
Oh yeah. Top 3.
Exactly. And so he when somebody talks about Harley Race, they automatically think one of the best ever. So, and he knew it too. He wasn't he was quite humble, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But he also knew his ability and he knew what he could do. Mm-hmm. That said, to say great reputation is a vast understatement, but he knew his reputation would be at stake if I came along, was the drizzling S words, I'm just going to say it like that, and then tarnish that. He knew that. Yeah. And it took me a second to catch on, but now looking back, I totally understand it.
Yeah.
So Jason Jones, again, was a pseudonym because he wanted to make sure that I be able to stand on my own 2 feet and excel as a professional wrestler, not excel as a son of a great professional wrestler. Because just because you're a son or a daughter or whoever it may be, doesn't automatically make you a shoe-in to be a great professional wrestler.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of that if you don't mind.
By all means.
The great Angelo Mosca, who just recently passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his son wasn't a bad wrestler, but he wasn't, in my mind, and I think a lot, wasn't at the par level of his father.
It's all subjective. You know what I mean?
But, he did. I guess what I mean is, okay, I remember him as a kid too, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying he wasn't a great wrestler, Angelo Mosca Jr. I'm just saying he didn't have that, to me, he didn't have that charisma it factor.
He didn't bring that same aura.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to be the same as your dad, but like with you, okay, you were Jason Jones for a number of years. And I actually remember when you switched over, because the only reason why I kind of found out right away is when you were switching all your social media, it changed over. That was quite a few years ago now. But
yeah, it was back in
2000. You did have that it factor. And it shocked me when I found out, oh my God, he's Harley Race's son. I would have never known. But your ability, your charisma, and I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I'm saying that because to me, it's fact. You have that it factor. You have that ability to wrestle and the ability to speak. Those 3 things you have to be successful in pro wrestling.
So, no, I understand. And again, it's all subjective.
Yeah.
There is no like textbook definition. There are no lists. There are no set number of qualifications of what a
Yeah.
professional wrestler is.
Right.
Excuse me, that Mountain Dew's just going right through me, dude.
That's all right.
With that said, if you ask most people what a professional wrestler is to them, a lot of those abilities were held by the old man. You know what I mean? They were exuded in him.
Yeah.
And so, like, I also want people to understand too, like, the old man was born. So you're in Bolivar. Have you ever been or up to St. Joe or no?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been there. Yeah.
So an hour and 15 minutes, I'm trying to put this in my head, west of or east of St. Joe, there is a little tiny town. It's called Quitman. And the population is 42 people. Like, that's what's on the sign, right?
Yeah. Right.
And I believe it. And probably half of them are related, and all probably a race relations in some way or another.
Right. Yeah.
But again, he came from that town of 42 people. Again, now it's 42. It was probably a little bit more than that back then. And he worked on the farm. I have seen, it's not the house that's on his plot of land or where he grew up. That plot of land wasn't the same one as it is now. But I mean, he grew up not poor, but not rich either. I would say average family, farm family upbringing, and he was he had one brother and 4 sisters, so 6 total. And he started traveling with Gus Karras, and Gus was not only a promoter, but he was also a wrestler. But Gus at the time was a promoter for St. Joe area. And if you know anything about wrestling, it in America had emanated from the carnivals. And that's how he got his start. He had to drive around a guy that was 750-ish pounds on a light day.
Whoa.
Yeah, that legit too. He was so the guy's name was Happy Humphrey. And at one point in time, he was in the Guinness Book of World Records for literally the largest athlete that was physically active. The guy, I think he, at some points in time, the old man told me he had gotten up to over 1,000 a couple times. And there's actually documentaries about him. I have seen them of Happy Humphrey. And he had like the gastric bypass surgery, I believe. And he cut down a considerable amount of weight after that. But yeah, like legit. And that's how the old man got his start. And so you have to know, when you drive around Happy Humphrey, he was so large that he could not get into a normal shower, right? Yeah. So the old man would drive a car that had like an outhouse looking thing on the back of it. That ain't no, I'm not lying to you, okay? Yeah. Trying to watch my language. It had a hose attached like on the side of that outhouse looking thing. And one of the old man's responsibilities is that he had hooked that hose up to a spigot outside, and he had a mop. And that's how Humphrey would take a bath, is that the old man would have to mop him down and hose him down and rinse him off. That ain't no joke either. Like, wow. He nobody's, if he wasn't above that, then nobody should be above anything. Right. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Like washing a very large individual off with a mop, bucket, and garden hose. Come on now. that was freaking Harley Race doing that. It wasn't the status that he was later on in his life, and I understand that, but still,
right,
same person.
Yeah, same guy.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's talk about the Black Hand Warriors. How did that come about?
So the Black Hand Warriors came about from really, it was just an idea. It was just something to hopefully get something chatted about. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, just get some talk. It was this rebellious group that at the time, in my head, part of the reason that we put that together is myself. The initial group was myself, Michael Magnuson, Dave DeLorean, or Dark Shadows when he first debuted, because it was those. They debuted with me. That was their introduction to World League Wrestling, and wrestling as a whole was with me. And then also a guy by the name of Mark Sterling, who had been around for a little while. I don't believe Mark is wrestling anymore. But Mark, all of those guys were just they fit the mold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Dave DeLorean wore a mask. Nothing special or significant about the mask. It's just something that we had laying around, to be honest with you. The initial idea that I wanted to make a change for the good of professional wrestling. That was it's cookie cutter today, because everybody says the same dang thing. Like, get your own idea, man. But you know, that was just, it hadn't been done before in WLW, and we wanted to try something different.
Yeah.
The young man said, okay, go ahead, try it.
Yeah.
And for what it was, it was successful. Prior to that, I'd always been babyface. That allowed me to turn heel. And I think I'm a much better heel than I am a babyface.
Yeah.
But you know, it was just honestly, it's just an idea. Then Dave DeLorean, Michael Magnuson kind of took off and ran with it. With Jaden Dominic Rose, or Jaden Phoenix at that point in time. That's what his name was. And you know, that group's no longer around. Magnuson and DeLorean aren't even involved in professional wrestling at all. Jaden Phoenix is now Jaden Dominic Rose, and he still wrestles for World League Wrestling.
Yep.
And Mark Sterling is again, I don't think he's involved in professional wrestling. He hasn't been for, I want to say, about 3 or 4 years now, maybe even longer than that. You know, everybody has their own reasons. Yeah. So
I enjoyed when I saw you guys. I thought it was great. I really did. When it was the three of you for a while, Magnuson, you, and DeLorean, when he was still Dark Shadows. It was great. I loved it. I would watch it. When I went to your events, when you were in Eldon still, wasn't too far away from Fort Leonard Wood.
Yeah, it was an hour away, huh?
Yeah. It was an hour away from there. And I enjoyed it. I went to one of your events a few years back when DeLorean and Magnuson were still there. This is probably about 4 years ago now.
Okay.
In Excelsior Springs, they were at an event there.
Was that during the snowstorm?
It wasn't. It was.
Because I think we went there twice.
Yeah. I think it was the second time.
Yeah, because the first time we went, it was a literal ice storm and blizzard.
Yeah, but it was great. And then those guys are a hoot. I mean, they're good. They know how to perform. They know how to wrestle, and they just, I don't know. There's just something about them. They have that factor. And you said they're not in wrestling anymore. It's too bad, because I thought they were good.
Yeah, you know, everybody that gets involved in professional wrestling, I would say probably 2000 late. What is this year? 2021. I would say late 2010-ish. 10-ish on. The mindset's different, and only up until recently has there been places to go.
Absolutely.
I think at the beginning, when people start training to become a professional wrestler, they do love pro wrestling, but they love wrestling on either what they see on television or the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then when they get about knee deep, then they say, "Whoa, this isn't what I expected. Good, bad, or indifferent." I'm not saying that part. They say, "Whoa, this is a lot different." And then some people, kind of have to make that decision, whether they want to keep doing something that they thought was one thing and it's totally opposite, or if they want to get out of it because of that reason. And I don't ever knock people if they just say, "Hey, I thought it was this, but it was this, and this isn't what I wanted." So, and I don't knock people because at least they tried it. You know what I mean? But there again, there are some people that just come in here and day one, and then 6 months from then they expect to be at WrestleMania, and it's like, you guys have no clue. Get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about your other experiences in some other promotions.
Yes, sir.
I know you said you worked in Japan for a
Yes, sir.
while. Anywhere else? I saw, and I don't know if this is true. I saw you worked a little bit in WWE. I don't know if
Very
that.
little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Was
Yeah.
there anywhere else in particular that you enjoyed working besides Japan?
So Japan, ultimately, when I came back home, ultimately my career goal was that I wanted to make a living traveling to Japan and wrestling.
Okay.
Primarily because the sport of pro wrestling is viewed at way differently in Japan than versus here. You know what I mean? Here it is, and again, only until about, I want to say 3 years ago, just a little bit prior to COVID, it has always been presented as sports entertainment, and which is not bad. It's just not what I want to be a part of.
Right.
In Japan, it's a sport, and that to me, that's a big thing. Professional wrestling used to be, and I say in the good old days, or people know it as the territory days.
Yes.
In those days, I would have loved to be a part of professional wrestling more. But times have changed, things have changed, and the industry has evolved into what the beast is now. I did, again. So we'll start with Pro Wrestling Noah. I lived in Japan, trained there for 3 months, and then I did one tour with them. I did 2 tours while I was training there. A tour is just 2 to 3 weeks going out wrestling every single night. So you're gonna find out what you're made of, seriously.
Yeah.
Because people say, "Oh, I want to do that." Well, it's different here than in the United States because, like, take this into consideration. The working relationship that World League Wrestling had with Pro Wrestling Noah had existed for a number of years, and a number of talent and students that trained here and wrestled here went to Pro Wrestling Noah to either train, wrestle, or both.
Right.
9 times out of 10, if you went there to train, you were wrestling within a month. That's just the Pro Wrestling Noah wanted to get something out of their investment because they were paying the individuals to not much, so keep that in consideration.
Yeah.
They were paying guys to train there, so they want to get their investment back. It's just business.
Right.
And I get that part of it too. So when prior World League Wrestling talent and students went there to go train, they oftentimes went with people that they knew or were around people that could at least speak English, more than broken sentences at best. You know what I mean?
Right.
Other Americans is what I mean. And so I was not as fortunate. So when I went to go there, there was myself, Taniguchi, Aoki, Ricky Marvin on occasion, but even his English sometimes just wasn't the absolute best.
Yeah.
And then a couple of the more experienced guys, like Go Shiozaki, he would be there, but it was just me. I'm like, well, this is something different. It's a culture shock because you go there. So on a daily schedule wise, right? You go there. First off, when I got off the plane, they said, do not go to sleep until tonight. Because I got there at like 1 p.m. They said, do not go to sleep. And I sure as heck, I fell asleep within about 2 hours, and I was screwed because my schedule, they knew what they're talking about. I was just too tired.
Yeah.
So every day you wake up, right? I had to be awake by 8 o'clock in the morning. And then by night, like, you had to get up, eat, shower, and then be up at the dojo part by 9 o'clock. Now keep in mind that if the dorm, because they had a dorm where I think it was 6 or 8 guys could live at. It was a part of the office, different area. That's what the whole building complex was called. You had to clean up that too. So if the trash needed to be taken out, they didn't let me cook because they knew better than that. Like, and it's not really hard to screw up rice, but I could find a way if I needed to. You had to clean the dorm area, take out the trash, make sure everything was picked up, looked nice, presentable. And then by 9 o'clock, you had to go up to the training room, which was on the 3rd floor, and you had to wipe down the gym equipment. You had to wipe down the ring, clean up, put stuff up. Again, presentation. And if there was an elder there or a senpai, like if Kobashi, Kento Kobashi was up there working out, you can't go in there. Like, it's just, no, leave him alone. Same with Segura. If he was in there, you leave him alone. So, you know, it's then, once they get done, then you got to hurry up and go. This is how things work there, right?
Right.
Then you got to train. Like the first week I was there, I remember taking like 50 back body drops in a row. And that's after doing the squats. That's after doing the ab stuff. That's after doing the push-ups and everything else. 50 back body drops is in a row is super, super tiring. It is difficult, but it's just tiring for me. After doing all that stuff. And then you're done at noon, maybe 1 o'clock, and you got to go downstairs, the rest of the younger guys fix lunch for everybody, and then stand there, hands by your side, don't make eye contact with them until otherwise. So that was the first month, and then I went on tour with them during that first month that I was there. And you're a second, that's what they call it, is a ring second, and you got to help with bring ring jackets to the back, open the ropes, et cetera, et cetera. Then Marufuji came up to me after that first tour, which was, I want to say it was 5 weeks. That was the longest tour of the year. And of course, it's the first one I started out on. It was 5 weeks. You don't go home. You go to another hotel.
Okay.
Wake up, do it again. Wake up, do it again, right? Marufuji came up and said, hey, you wrestle next month. I said, what? I was excited, but I was also like, are we sure it's this soon? He said, yeah. I said, okay. So I wrestled. And then you also have to do the ring second stuff. And you still have to do the younger guy stuff too,
Yeah.
Bison Smith, who was super, super nice to me. You had to earn his respect, man. You just didn't go up and say, shake your hand, give you a big bro hug. Man, Bison knocked your head off without even thinking about it. That's if he liked you, But he took really good care of me once he saw that you were in it to win it, basically.
Yeah.
He looked after me. And same with Bobby Fish, who was on top of the game right now. Bobby Fish was super, super awesome. He was a pro wrestling at the time. So did 2 more tours. So 2 tours total on that 3-month stay. Came back, did another tour. It was about a year afterwards. Then after that, things changed. And I did a tour with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah, night and day difference. And I don't mean that in a bad way, not disrespectfully. It's just 2 different things, 2 different entities. And I really enjoyed that New Japan tour. I went there with a month of Brian Breaker as part of the World Tag League back in 2016, November of 2016. And that was, that. And, we're hoping with this pandemic crap still affecting day-to-day life across the world, it's kind of put a pause on everything, but we're hoping that we're going to be able to reestablish those business relationships with Pro Wrestling Noah.
Yeah. Interesting. That's great stuff.
It is a mouthful. Yeah, I told you I could talk, dude.
That's all right. That's good.
The walls don't talk back to me, so somebody else has got to.
Chemistry with other wrestlers. Who do you think you had the best chemistry with in the ring as an opponent?
Anybody that doesn't like to call stuff in the back.
Okay.
I don't know how much you know about wrestling. I'm more of a person to where I like to go out there and feel the crowd.
Right.
Like what I do will dictate what the crowd does.
Yeah.
Again, not knowing how much you know about wrestling, I assume you know something. but like it's not a hidden fact. You can go on there and it's on the movie The Wrestler, for crying out loud. So it's not like I'm exposing anything. You know, guys just sit there and plan out their match.
Right.
Man, I can't do that. Man, my head hurts. Just think like I can't remember anything anyway. That's why I asked you, like, please send me a reminder.
Yeah.
It's not any disrespect to you. It's just that my brain doesn't hold information very well.
Yeah.
If I had to sit there and remember A, B, C, D, E, F, G with another guy, that's not fun for me.
Right.
I'm not saying we had to go out there and goof off. There's an art to pro wrestling, and it's quickly becoming a lost one.
We'll get into that in a minute too. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, well, man, get a pen and paper. Take place. But I can't have fun going out there and trying to remember this. I can't do that. It's not fun for me.
Right.
And especially in World League Wrestling, I don't have time to sit there for 4 hours and put together a match and run the event. Because a lot of times that's what it is. Here lately, we've been really good about getting things done to where, like, the day of an event is very stress-free.
Good.
So I'm able to relax and to let my brain relax a little bit. If my brain's relaxed, everybody's having a good day. Myself at the tip of it. My wife, maybe not so much, but she helps out and she's a saint for doing so.
Yeah.
That said, you know, I can't really pinpoint a specific individual. As long as I'm having fun, I can have a good match with anybody.
Okay. I saw the match with you and Nick Aldis that occurred a while back, and that was a great match.
Night Champions 4, 2019.
Yeah.
And actually, so we moved houses, and I have that banner because on that. So that particular event, you know, is our WrestleMania Night of Champions.
Yeah.
And it's like we really went all out. Each match had its own banner, and I made sure to make sure I got that banner because I wanted that thing. But yeah, that was a fun time. And I get this a lot from people like, how was that match? I'm like, it's irreplaceable to me for a lot of reasons, primarily because that specific match with all the components involved will never, ever, ever take place again, because the old man was a part of that. Yeah. And I knew what I wanted with him. I wanted him to be a part of that because that championship title meant the world to him, and and he meant the world that championship title is reciprocating, right? Yeah. And obviously, so he's not here. So again, that's why none of that match as an entirety will never ever be duplicated. Yeah. But that also makes it special to me and Nick too. He's went on record and said that. Yeah,
Nick, nothing but high regard for you and your father.
No, Nick is, man, he's such an awesome person. Is to me, from my standpoint, this is just me. Yeah. Like, tough exterior, but then when you break that shell, he's fun. He's good to be a person to have fun with. You know what I mean?
Like your dad.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what type of fun you're talking about. But
well, I'll tell you a story real quick. I met your dad at one of your events. I had an action figure with me that I wanted him to sign, and I went past his truck, and I just happened to see him in there. He was taking a break in there, and I looked over at my wife. I said, "Hey, that's Harley Race." I said, when he gets out of there, when he gets in the building, I'll ask him if he'll sign it. Well, he heard me, and he said, "Come over here, son." I look around. Okay, so I went over there. He goes, "Would you like me to sign that for you?" I said, "Oh, yeah. When you don't have to do it right now, sir. You can wait till you get in the building. I mean, no, I'll do it right now." Oh, okay. So I handed him the marker. You're on there 8 times, world champion, Harley Race. Handed it back to me. Which one? It's the I don't know. Oh.
Is it the Jacks or the Mattel?
It's the Jacks.
Okay, yeah, those are super hard to find. The Mattel are too, but yeah.
The Jacks one.
Yeah.
And I was just surprised because, to me, Harley Race, legend
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah,
I'm down here,
no,
fan.
for sure.
There's layers there that you go through to go and meet Harley Race.
No,
And
you don't.
to me, it was, but it was a great honor. I have his book. He signed this.
Yeah.
Great book. Just a great guy. And that's what kind of Nick reminds me of. And he said he is, because he went through training there, he's modeled himself after your father.
Yeah.
And it's great.
No, and I apologize, dude.
No, you're fine.
Nick, there's a lot of people that look at the NWA World Heavyweight Championship title as what it looked. And when I say that, I don't mean that as a hit against the current NWA that's out there. I don't mean that. It's just
Right.
it's just a different time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But looked at that NWA World Heavyweight Championship title when my dad, and then when Rick, Terry, and Dory, when those guys held it, it's a different breed of people.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't make them like that anymore. And Nick, I dare say Nick, I dare say Trevor, try to hold themselves to that standard, because both of those two realize the what that belt means, what that championship title means.
Oh yeah.
Not just a piece of leather. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, it has a lot of lineage in it. I know there was years there where it was kind of on the wayside, unfortunately. In the last
was.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean, and it's unfortunate.
Sure.
But it's starting to make a little bit of a comeback. Unfortunately, the pandemic kind of slowed that down.
Absolutely.
But I mean, but I think, and I want to get into this with you now, I think indies are starting to make a comeback, and I mean that in a great way, because your television production on YouTube, to me, is excellent. I've watched some of your the videos you guys make and put on YouTube, and they're great. They're not the homemade quick YouTube movie you throw on, you slap together real fast and throw on there. You guys take time and effort in it, and it looks great. I'll say that.
As far as like TV production, if that's what we're talking about here, the specific subject.
Yeah.
I take great pride in this rendition, because there's been a couple of other versions of World League Wrestling television programming.
Yeah.
I was not around for that, and I'm not knocking it. That's the simple fact. I wasn't around when that stuff was taking place. I believe Matt Murphy, who was the original first student at the Harley Race Wrestling Academy back in 2000, he had a big heavy hand in, I believe it was the second version of World League Wrestling television programming. But again, I just wasn't around. I'm not even trying to knock him.
Right.
He did what he did to the best of his ability with what he had, which that speaks volumes. And that was also 21 years ago too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
With that said, it offered, I'll say this, what we do as far as television production, I'm very happy with and proud of, because I see, like, myself, and I know it sounds strange because I'm like involved, I'm inside the box, but I can see the progression from episode 1 to episode, we're on like 160 now. And that in and of itself, that's almost 3 years worth of TV programming.
Right.
That's a lot, man. I gotta get a new external hard drive, because now mine's done.
No, but I want to tell you, you're doing a great job, and your talent is doing a great job. Your commentators are doing a great job. Everybody, and I'm not just saying that because you're on there. I watched them. I've watched them periodically like you said, through the years. You can tell a big difference from, like you said, the first episode to the latest episode, but you can also tell a difference from the first other programming versions from earlier years to now. And I don't, and it's not just you, it's other territory, or not territories, independents
Yeah.
that are doing the same thing now. OVW, they didn't have great quality a few years ago. I was at Louisville about 6 years ago when it was still under Danny Davis. The television was okay. It wasn't great. Now under Al Snow,
Yeah.
it's night and day. It's a lot better. And it's, again, I'm not knocking the old version. It was just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's coming along with everybody. I mean, technology's better, equipment's,
And that's honestly what it amounts to.
yeah. Technology and equipment is not, it's expensive still, but it's not quite as expensive as it was years ago. So it's more affordable. I'm not saying it's not cheap. It's not cheap, but it's what I'm trying to say is it's coming along better. And I think, and I want your opinion on this, I think the indies are really making a comeback. And I hope to the next 4 or 5 years to see more programs on television, not just YouTube, of World League, OVW, not just WWE and AEW. That's what I see now.
Well, it's I'm glad you put of World League Wrestling, because I was about to say, well, I don't want to see more wrestling programs out there because that means we have more to contend with. But ultimately, competition only makes you better, or at least that's how individuals and businesses should look at it, right?
Right.
I enjoy things that make me think, and I enjoy challenges because ultimately it makes me better as a human being.
Right.
It's up until recently, I probably was getting like 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, only because like I get myself so busy, only because I'm trying to do things to better either one of the two businesses that I own, or the individuals inside of it. Because like, to me, with wrestling, for example, I call them kids, and so the old man did too, but those kids, and some of the kids there are older than I am, and have been involved in wrestling. So those are not my kids, but they are still part of my family.
Right.
The people that are there within WLW now, now past and future, past, present, and future. And I do my best to make sure that they know they are a part of this family. That's because that's what World League Wrestling is. It's a family. Do we have an immaculate castle with all these rooms where each person has their own room and everything's made out of gold? No, absolutely not. I don't have that, Jack. I'm fine with that too,
Yeah.
That said, my goal about a year prior to COVID, my goal was to get World League Wrestling on in St. Louis on KPLR. Know your history. KPLR is a channel that had Wrestling at the Chase on.
Yes.
That's up here, man.
Yeah.
It ended, I believe, in '84, if I'm not mistaken. There was like 30 something years of television programming there. KPLR is a different beast, and it's a different time because of COVID.
Right.
I can't, just walk in there and talk with them. I've tried and I can't.
Yeah.
That's what people don't see. But ultimately, my goal is to get our television program onto many other stations, because right now we're on 3 stations. Columbia, we're on in Columbia, Missouri, St. Joseph, Missouri, and Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, it's the Houston, Texas thing. I get a stink eye from a lot with people, and I'm like, you just don't know. But my goal is, I actually had made out, I think it was a 3-year plan, and having our TV program on 4 other stations, so 8 total across the Midwest is my goal.
Yeah.
Is it capable? Yes, but it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's life. That's business. That's how things go.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, there's some shows on some of these channels. I'm wondering why they're on there, or we could be watching.
They make money.
Well, I don't know how they make money, because I'll be honest, some of these programs that are on, like some of the local channels at night, that are local, and they're broadcasting. I'm not going to put anything down. I'll just say a show that I particularly don't care for. A lot of people I don't think would. When you could have a local wrestling, like World League Wrestling, on there for that hour, and
Well,
make it probably making more money. I don't know. I would watch it.
There's more to it than that. You know,
Yeah,
those TV programs pay to be on that television station.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's, you know, cooking with Betty or sewing with Jimmy or, you know, going to a local winery. It doesn't, it's at the end of the day, their money's as green as everybody else's.
Yeah, that's true.
That's honestly what it amounts to. And I know that for a fact because I'm in these conversations quite a bit. That said, you know, having a local, and when I say local, I mean the state of Missouri, a locally based professional wrestling business on bigger cities TV program, that is you don't find that on every street corner now. Maybe you do, right? Maybe you do see a professional wrestling, because let's just be honest, there's a lot of professional wrestling taking place in this state.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that separates World League Wrestling from the rest of the professional wrestling companies out there, which are not bad, by the way, but what's the one simple fact?
Well, for me, it's the talent, I think, and your World League Wrestling, Harley Race.
Dang, Skippy, my man. So actually, I found these pictures the other day. I'm trying to play around with the computer program, trying to find one that doesn't make him, like this one right here. This is a Japanese proof that goes into a Japanese magazine. So these are very rare, these pictures right here. Doing the headbutt. I don't even know who that's to. I want to say it's an American, but regardless, it's him.
Yeah.
People associate great professional wrestling with Harley Race.
Yep.
Not every match is going to be 5-star. I get that, but not every match has to be 5-star.
No.
People need to get that out of their skull right now.
Yeah.
With that said, that's the one thing, right? And I'm very proud of that fact, but I'm also very proud because of the company as a whole.
Yeah. Because
the old man passed away August 1st, 2019. Mm-hmm. With that said, there was a lot of people, A, that said we should have closed down August 2nd. B, said we wouldn't make it a year. Well, we're 2.5 years into this now.
Yeah. And
by all accounts, COVID should have shut World League Wrestling down. By all accounts. Not because we have a bad product, but simply because, you know, we were starting to go up in business.
Yeah.
We weren't making millions of dollars, but we were able to make a little bit of money, right? And then the rug was swept out from the entire world, literally. And our landlord luckily likes us, so we were able to work together, because he doesn't want to have an empty building, obviously. And we did a lot of work in that building and saved him and from a lot of repairs. So I'll say it like that. But it's TV stations, you know, KPLR having Harley Race's World League Wrestling on there. Mm-hmm. Man, that would be a dream come true for me.
Oh, if you got it down here at KY3, boy, I think you'd have a great.
What's that one called again?
KY3 in Springfield.
KY3, is that the ABC affiliate?
Well, it's ABC, NBC. They're kind of combined. They got the CW. Oh, they got 4 or 5 stations now that are under that banner.
I think I have tried to contact them before, and they were not very thrilled with professional wrestling due to a past experience that was not with us.
Yeah, right.
I was like, lady, don't hold me up. I don't know what's going on.
I think it'd do great down here, but that's just me.
No, I understand. It makes 2 of us.
Yeah. All right, a couple more things, and we'll get you going, because I know you got things to do. Let's talk about what we talked a little bit about, the difference between wrestling today versus when you started back in 2003. I can tell you my opinion if you want to hear it.
Well, go ahead. Let's start with yours.
I think it's a lot more scripted. I think there's not that wholehearted of being the bad guy versus and the good guy. I think because of social media too, it they just play their little part in the ring, right? And then on social media, they're
Hey, buy my stuff.
buy my stuff. Hey, I'll shake your hand. Hey, you know, things
Everybody's
like that.
afraid to be a bad guy.
Right. If you're a bad guy, to me, you're the bad guy. You want to hate that guy.
Yeah,
Hate him so much that you'll go buy that ticket, and he shouldn't be out there. Well, you know what I mean. I'm getting a little off, but you want to hate you love to hate him, and I don't really see that anymore. In fact, I watched last night the Royal Rumble.
the Survivor or the Royal Rumble.
Survivor Series. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Survivor Series. Sorry. I mean, it was okay. The best match was the Big E versus Roman Reigns.
Sure.
It was a good match, but I don't. It just doesn't have that. Like, I don't really want to go out and hate Roman Reigns. He's supposed to be the bad guy.
Sure.
Now, like when your dad was a heel, and you played it beautifully. You did it beautifully. I really didn't like you when you were with Black Hand Warriors.
There's a lot of people that didn't and still don't, but that's all right.
But you know what I mean? I mean, it's a different beast now, and I love to see and managers. You don't see managers anymore. Paul Heyman is a counsel now. He's not. They don't say manager of Roman. They say he's a counsel. Come on, he's not a lawyer.
Well, you know, as it pertains to WWE, and these are my viewpoints only. Okay, and I'm not there too,
Right.
but I've been around. You know, I hear different people talk about different things.
Right.
The industry has changed, and ultimately, it is WWE. If they're going to do what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, you know, we also watch wrestling younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the other day I watched the Ghostbusters movie, the new one, which
Okay.
that's an awesome movie. And if you haven't seen it,
I have not.
Do yourself a favor and go watch it.
All right.
Like that is like, I don't put over too many movies, but that's when I will. Sometimes people outgrow things. You know what I mean? They get bitter because it's not the way that it was.
Right.
That Ghostbusters movie, that was awesome. That was like, that's exactly what it should have been.
Yeah.
But other people's renditions sometimes can ruin it for somebody else, and or you outgrow it.
Yeah.
You know, you remembered it as this tough, hard hitting, I'm gonna break your face type of professional wrestling. Well, there's a lot more factors involved now because it's 2021. You got social media. You can't. Ole Anderson was like one of the best heels of all time. He got sliced straight down with a beer bottle.
Wow.
Somebody broke that thing, and it was, I believe, it was in Spartan. I want to say it was Spartanburg, South Carolina. Maybe I'm wrong, but somebody busted a beer bottle and sliced him.
Oh,
Ole
wow.
beat the crap out of him, holding his guts in, literally. The old man got stabbed at a bar.
Yeah.
Not strictly because he was a heel. He was helping a lady out who was, I don't know the exact 100% story, but he was helping somebody out, and somebody else got offended. Whatever.
Yeah.
You can't get that type of heat today.
No.
Like,
No.
it's all you know, cancel culture crap, which is like the death of the world.
I'm with you 100%.
You know, it's just how it is, and I think that people can be creative and push that line, but most people don't want to find out what's on the opposite side of that line because of cancel culture, or they'll lose their job. I'm self-employed. I'm not going to fire myself. I just know a lot of it's common sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you, and I really do hope that your company, World League Wrestling, and these others do get on TV more and get up there, because you know what? It's more entertaining to me like when I went to that event I told you about the other night for Bobby Eaton, there was probably a couple hundred people there. But you know what? Actually, my wife, who's not a big wrestling fan at all, actually enjoyed it.
Sure.
She enjoyed it. And she said that was probably better than we went to an AEW event a few years ago where there's, 15,000 people.
Yeah, yeah.
And she said that it was better. And I said, you know what? You're right. I agree. Because it was, the atmosphere, the guys, men and women in there that are they're working their tail off and trying to give you a show that they know you want to see.
Sure.
Okay. And then they're not on social media half an hour later. They buy my stuff. I mean, we went the other night, like I said, and none of those guys, I had the poster, Bobby Eaton's memorial event. They signed it all, didn't ask me for nothing. I mean, I bought some stuff, but they didn't say, hey, are you interested in this? They're not pushing anything.
No, for sure.
Which is great. And I know you guys are like that too. I've been to your events. You guys don't push it. You come up, say, hi, how you doing? Great. Hey, what's this? I'll look at, oh yeah, well, they'll talk about it. And if I buy it, I buy it. If I don't, I don't. They're fine with it. That's the great part about that. So,
it's smaller events, smaller companies like ours and many others that are out there. We're not in the business of hounding people. And I'm not in the business myself. I can speak to this myself. I'm not in the business of robbing people. You know what I mean?
right.
If you want to buy it, like you said, it's there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you came to a WLW event, or you went to the one where the Bobby Eaton Memorial event. You went to that to because you wanted to go to that.
Right.
Having merchandise, all that stuff extra, that's if you want it. And for me, when people tell me how can I support World League Wrestling, well, buy a t-shirt. That not only do you for the short term the t-shirt sell, but you also wear that t-shirt, people see it.
Mm-hmm.
And they ask questions and they'll go to the website. It's a multi thingy process there.
Yeah.
With that said, we're all in it for the same reason, and that's for the love of professional wrestling. You get a lot more better feel because it's a locally owned product. It's just like going to a local restaurant. I would say the one that I like to go to here, but you don't know that one, so you're not from this area. But it's like going to them versus going to Applebee's.
Yeah,
it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. So. All right, and what other projects are we working on right now for World League Wrestling?
The old man used to have this saying, and I really, really hated it because when I heard it time and time again, I thought I was just like, man, is that what you think of this company? But it wasn't at that point in time. Hindsight's 2020, you know. Well, now it's hindsight's 2021.
Yeah.
Above water. I used to hate when he said that because it's like, man, we have so much potential here. It's so much, so many possibilities. Like, we can't just say keep our heads above water. Right now, that's what it is.
Yeah.
If I can throw this out there,
please.
If you want to train to become a professional wrestler, have the work ethic. Don't sit there and think that you're ever better than anybody. Like at one event, this was 2 months ago, I did the music, I set up and I tore down. Let's see, I don't even think I wrestled on that one. I ran the event per normal and I cleaned up vomit. So don't sit there and think you're above anything.
Yeah.
Have the right work ethic and get in there and do what you want to do.
Yeah. That's great. Well, Leland, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Leland Race, thank you for coming on today.
Yes, sir.
Go to harleyrace.com, folks. There's merchandise on there. There's when there's upcoming events, they'll post them on there.
We're adding more as we speak. This gigantic printer right there, that's about 200 pounds. will hopefully, as of today, I think that when the part comes in, hopefully be producing t-shirts on demand. So all I had to do was get the shirt,
All
print
right.
your design on it, ship it out to you, bang. I don't have to
Great.
wait anymore.
They're on social media as well. Their Facebook page, Twitter.
Probably going to be shutting down Twitter. So I hate Twitter with a passion.
All right, scratch Twitter.
Yeah.
And
A lot more pleasant.
yes, and again, thank you for so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for that.
And we'll get this out. And folks, if you're listening, subscribe to our channel. We have YouTube, Facebook. We have also merchandise on Teespring. Look at it, check it out. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Leland.
Happy holidays, not just
Happy holidays to everyone as well. Yes.
That time of year, Jack.
Yeah, it is. And for those watching, thank you. For those listening, thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.